Yo, right across the internet. I could up on your mobile phone, I could up on your social media platform. This is Jambo Radio. www.jamboradio.co.uk. We're multilingual, we're conversational in the languages where you understand. We are Jambo Radio. Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
Hello and welcome to Love on the Stereo on Jambo Radio with me, your host Holly, and I'm from Swipe Right HQ, which is Scotland's premier dating agency for the Afro-Caribbean community. So welcome, happy Friday, and I just want to say welcome through another dark winter, because coming into the studio today, it was still light out, and I just was like, praise God, I nearly fell to my knees. It was amazing. So this happens every year. It's dark every year at the same time, but then again it gets light and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Life goes on. So yeah, welcome through another winter. We've done it. It's only going to get brighter and lighter as the evenings go on. So on today's show, we're actually continuing our exploration into how couples can keep their love alive beyond the honeymoon phase. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the post-swipe phase, you know, when you've fallen in love, you've done the dating apps, you're now together. But how do you stay together? So we're going to continue that series today. I've got some tips for you on how to make that relationship kind of last longer than just two people together because you've made a commitment. You know, you can make it sweet inside that commitment. So that's what we're here to talk about, you know, that spark that is normally there at the beginning in that honeymoon phase, but we want to make that spark last longer, you know, that flame. We want to keep that flame alive, boys and girls, okay? And then I just want to preface, last time I was talking a lot about the train chugging along, but you know, I'm staying away from that today. So, but welcome back to today's show. If you want to take part, you can always catch the show at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Jambo Radio Scotland. We are on DAB in Glasgow and Edinburgh. You can also download the Jambo Radio app from the Apple Store and Google Play. And you can also watch the show live on Facebook and on the Jambo Radio Scotland YouTube channel. And that's at Jambo Radio Scotland as well. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, you can call the studio on, excuse me, 0141 530 2787. And if you want to text us, WhatsApp, voice note, I'm into all of that, you can do that on 0745 990 6822. And if you're on social media, which most likely you are, you can also message us on Facebook at Radio Jambo Scotland, or you can message myself and the team at Swipe Right HQ. On X, formerly Twitter. I need to stop saying formerly Twitter. We all know what it is now, sadly, even though we still just call it Twitter. We are at Jambo Radio 1, and on Instagram, it's at jamboradio.scotland. Or you can follow the Love Gurus directly on Instagram at swiperight.hq. You can also email us to join into the show at info@jamboradio.co.uk, or directly to ourselves over at Swipe Right, and that's hq.swiperight@gmail.com. So before we kick off tonight's show, I just want to thank the lucky singles who reached out to take part in the sponsored Swipe Right blind date for Valentine's Day. I won't say who they are, of course, and I'm hoping that over the next couple of weeks, maybe they'll be happy to share their story with us. And I just want to say, at the end of the day, it's just a date. There's no pressure on what this could be or what it won't be. We just want to hear how it went. So congrats to the both of you. We selected you and we think it might work well. And if it doesn't, heck, I encourage you to date anyway. You can get a story out of it, you know. And I want to wish you all, I hope that you all had a lovely Valentine's Day. I mean, whether or not you were with a loved one or a loved gal or guy, it doesn't matter. You can love yourself on Valentine's Day. I'm a big fan of galentines as well. So I don't know, is there like a broentine version? I'm not too sure, but I hope you had a great day. And I was just talking about this, and it's like some people don't really respect Valentine's Day, and that's fine, you know, it's a capitalist holiday and whatnot, right? But if you're kind of thinking, oh, why should I just want you to think about your birthday. Like, yeah, you're alive every single day, right? praise be. But when that birthday comes around, right, you find some way to ginger yourself and be like, I'm going to celebrate myself today. So think about that when it comes to love. It's, yes, you every day is Valentine's. We get it. But when it does come around, take a minute to think about it. You don't have to participate and spend money or whatnot, but just mark the day with your loved person and be like, I love you, babe. Whatever it is. I like you, babe. It could be anything. But yeah, let's get into it. And I just want to thank last week's guest. Of course, as we were talking about keeping the love alive, the love alive, not just alive, but really sparkling and on fire, and all these sensations that come with love. We had a lovely, wonderful guest on, the talented Miss Talent, last week, and if you didn't catch the show, I would recommend it. I think she was a fantastic guest, and she was on talking to us about how she's managed to keep her love life flaming away for over 5 years in a long distance relationship. And I think that even if that's not who you are, if you're thinking about being in a long-term relationship, you could have moments where you are apart from the person. So there could be some long distance in there. Maybe you're away for work for a couple of months, whatever it is. Sometimes these things will happen to you. So I would say, go back, listen to Talent's great tips on how to keep that long distance relationship really sizzling away in those moments of maybe trial, even to keep it joyful when you guys are so far away. So thank you again to Talent for being a wonderful and quite open guest, to be honest. But let's get into tonight's show. Welcome back, everyone. And if you're new to the show, again, my name's Holly, and this is Love on the Stereo. Tonight, we'll just quickly recap part one of this show, which is titled Post-Swipe Clarity. If you know, you know. And previously we were discussing love languages, and if you haven't yet done the test, I mean, you don't have to do the test, but it's a good way to learn how to perhaps learn how to express yourself to your partner, or even to know yourself a little bit better. It's a free test online, and you can do this by yourself or alongside your partner. So we're talking about that, and also we looked at how to create memories in a long-term relationship that can help to strengthen those bonds between you and your partner. We looked at how to become better communicators, how to practice active listening. I'm not going to go through all this again, but of course these are buzzwords, and even if you didn't listen to the show, you can just Google it. How do I become an active listener? How do I become more present? All these things, they seem small, they seem really silly. They're not, but they would really help you if you end up being the kind of person who wants to give your relationship a good old, what is it, English try? What's a good old go? Words fail me. I'm a bilingual, babe. So we looked at how to be a more empathetic person towards the love of your life, and how to clarify misunderstandings, seek compromising solutions, and how timing matters. So that was part one of the show. So tonight we're going to be looking at the conflict side of things in a long distance relationship, because I think rather in a long-term relationship, because as much as the love is alive a lot of the times it's the conflict that separates us, right? So we need to look into how we can do that. So I mean, life after the excitement of the swipe can get real pretty fast. So a lot of people would happily bail or have a world-ending fight than go through a kind of conflict situation with their partner. A lot of us aren't raised to argue well or fight well, and this is what can end up ruining a really good thing. So I've got here a quote from a very wise man. Some of you might have heard him or seen him even perform this quote, but it says here that tough times never last, only tough people do. End quote, right? That is really important about the quote. It's a little meme, but I think it's really important that you realize that it's not the tough times that last. It's not even the happy times that last. It's really how you can navigate through those tough and those happy times together. So just remember, tough times never last, only tough people do. So tonight we're looking at how do tough people last in the game of love, where all is fair. They say all is fair in love and war. Like, how do you last through that? Well, the simple answer is you get better at resolving conflicts. This creates healthy, constructive outcomes for the both of you, and it really helps the love the love boat stay afloat. Gosh, I really like transport. Trains, boats, listen, buckle up, it's all happening. But if you can learn how to solve these conflicts and stay in that love boat, you can really weather the storms. All the sea monsters will come. You guys will really be able to go the distance. But seriously, on a serious note, you've got to learn how to talk it out like pros when it comes to fighting in a long-term relationship. If it's a short-term thing, all out war, it doesn't matter. You don't really care about this person. You can call them any name under the sun. At the end of the day, you're moving on, right? But if you know that you've got to go upstairs and get in the same bed, you've got to, you got to share the same plate of food every other night, you want to try and make that effort so that it doesn't create a hostile environment in the home. So you got to learn how to talk it out. That's what we're here to do today. And I think that especially like African cultures, we don't really encourage self-expression so much in the home. It starts when you're young. How much can you express yourself to your parents, and then you just bring that that thing that you can't express into your love relationship, and then it replicates, and then you show that to your children, and so forth and so on. But we're here tonight to break that cycle. But yeah, so have you guys heard of the Gottman Institute? This is Gottman as in Gottman, not goat as in like that goat curry or that roasted goat. But basically it's this couple, and I think the therapist or something bigger than that, but they're basically relationship experts on steroids. And I spent years, like so many years, studying couples in the real world and figuring out like what makes relationships thrive, what makes relationships fail. And they're not just sitting around with facts and figures theorizing. They've got loads of data over years to back it up. Loads of, like, hundreds of couples have taken part in all their studies. They've published loads of research. If you're that kind of person, go ahead and read it. But the long and short is that they're relationship experts, and these people know their stuff. So we're going to try and learn from them tonight. So I encourage you guys to look into that if that is something that you're interested in. But so imagine that you are in a relationship, right? And start getting a bit rocky, and they can do. Nobody's perfect, and if nobody's perfect and two people are coming together, you're not going to be perfect together. So in those moments, maybe you're arguing more, the tension's building a little bit more, the honeymoon phase is fading. Their true self is now out and about. That self where they advertise themselves on the app and they advertise themselves in those few first dates, you can only keep that act up for so long, right? So in those moments where you're just that general feeling of disconnect is coming in, where this is when you're probably like, is it worth it? Let me move on. But you're like, no, let's keep it going together. This is tonight's show. This is when we buckle up and learn from the Gottmans. And they've come up with this theory called the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I think, if you're a Christian, or if you're not, it's a well-known imagery of like the world ending. These 4 headless men on a horses come in. One, I actually don't know what the 4 of them do, but it's basically the picture of apocalypse. And it's, I guess, hinting at the fact that when these 4 horsemen show up in your relationship, it's about to end. So we're going to be looking out for what those horsemen look like so that we can be prepared. So let's break this down. The first horseman is criticism. So this is when you start attacking your partner's character or personality instead of focusing on the behavior that they're displaying. So it's like saying, you always do this, or you never listen. And it's not about addressing an issue. It's more like attacking them personally. So you're the issue that you're addressing could be perfectly fine, but the way that you're now delivering it is just a little bit too spicy, because I think a lot of the times you could certainly say the hardest, most toughest thing, but it's the way that you deliver it that the person can take it. So I think this is what they're hinting at in terms of what's your little criticism. It's easy to do, gosh, you never do that. You never do that. It can't be you never. Maybe they do it sometimes, but even sometimes now they've done it, you criticize and say, like, instead of saying, oh, thanks for doing that, you'll be like, oh, wow, at last you've done that thing. It's that little criticism that comes in. Watch out for that coming out in your relationship. And the second one is contempt, which is like criticism times 3, right? It's like a higher level criticism. And it's when you start feeling superior to your partner, you'll start to roll your eyes at things that they do. You start mocking them. Contempt can really poison a relationship. And it's all about disrespect and that disdain. Actually, last weekend, we were at this kind of bakery cafe thing in Glasgow, and it's quite small. So it's like when you walk in, you kind of see the kitchen, the baking, it's looking good, it's smelling nice, but there's only a few tables. And then like the counter where you buy stuff from, right? So we managed to like snag a seat, like the last seat. And this couple comes in and they're ordering, and the guy's like, oh, can I have a pain au chocolat? And the woman like speaks up and says, ugh, do you mean pain au chocolat? Like in a very French accent, right? And it was very odd, because it's like everyone who was listening to his order knew exactly what he meant, right? But she wanted to like belittle him in that moment, to like teach him that's not how you say that thing. And I'm sorry, but if you need to correct me, then you know what I mean. So just don't do that. And the poor guy, of course, he like shrunk into himself a little bit and like went on his phone. But it's awkward. So you can just imagine if she's doing that, like that tiny little correction in front of everyone, what's she doing at home? Maybe they do it to each other, it doesn't matter. But it's these little things that turn into little mosquito bites of disrespect that will just now add up and add up and add up, and that's contempt. And the third horseman is defensiveness. So this is when, instead of owning up to your part of the problem, you start playing the blame game, right? You're making excuses. It's like you're putting up a shield. It's not my fault, it's yours. This is like when, say, you're wanting to talk to your partner, right? And you're like, listen, 2 days ago I said this, you did this, and I don't like it when you do that, right? And then your partner will be like, oh, well, then I also don't like it when you do that. There's no point to be defensive in that moment, because it's like the person you're speaking to has brought you an issue, right? In that moment, you make that decision to be like, ayo, boom, my bad, shorty, right? Whatever it is, instead of you turning around like, oh, you're bringing something? By the way, I also have something to tell you about you. If you do have that thing to tell them, wait until the moment has passed and they have removed whatever is on their chest, off of their chest. Because in that moment, when whatever you're bringing up could be definitely valid as well, but in that moment, it's being found, being brought up in a defensive nature, and that's not sexy, guys. It's not nice. So let's watch out for that as well. And the final one is stonewalling. So this is when you are in an argument or something has happened, and you completely shut down and you withdraw from the conversation or the interaction. And it's a big power play game. It's a big thing. A lot of us do that. And you might just stop responding, give the silent treatment, or like physically leave the room, close the door, get in the car, drive to your parents' house, whatever it is. That's stonewalling. And it leaves your partner feeling ignored, shut out. All of these things can damage that intimacy. And I think when you are doing this, it can feel like you can lie to yourself and be like, I just need some space. I just need to get out of here. And you could need that, right? But you've not communicated that. You've just like dropped the silent bomb and walked out. And it's really a nasty tactic. And I think a lot of people don't realize how damaging it can be to the other person. And, if two of you are now living in that situation where your fighting approach is the silent treatment, it's not going to end well, let me tell you, because I've seen it. You fight about something, and then you, especially in like growing up in homes, right? Like you fight with your siblings or with your it is, and it's never brought up again, right? It's just you just let time simmer it away, and then so your parent brings you out a plate of fruit and suddenly it's forgotten about, or whatever it is. Those things work in families, maybe. I don't think they work, but you can get on with that, right? But in a couple situation, I think that's like a poison dart that can start to really wear away at the foundations of that, because every time you argue and you're running to your friend's house, you're silencing, you're not talking for 2 days. How can that last? It maybe it can, but it's certainly going to be a very toxic situation. So let's watch out for that, because if these four horsemen start showing up regularly, of course they can show up. It's a long-term relationship. Years happen. You're going to get defensive at points. You're going to have a little content. You're going to roll your eyes now and again. Again, nobody's perfect, right? But if you start to see these things coming up in your relationship more and more often, then there's trouble ahead, and it's good to be aware of that. And instead of like letting these things run rampant, it's good to be aware of them. But if you're aware of them and you don't do anything about it, it doesn't really matter. So I want us all to learn some healthier ways of communicating these conflicts and coming out of them in a better, more healthier way. I've got here you can weather the storm in the love boat. I'm sorry, I find myself so funny sometimes, and I need to reel that in, especially when I'm talking on the radio. But it's certainly, it's never too late to rein these kinds of things in. And just, we're going to have a little news break there, but if you do want to join the show, you can send us a message on the WhatsApps, on the Facebooks, or even through our email. So you can call us in on 0141 530 2787, or if you want to text us on WhatsApp, you can do that on 0745 990 6822. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you've heard about the Goatmans, if you've noticed these things in your relationship and you're like, yeah, so this is happening, now what? Do you keep it up? Do you address it? Maybe you don't know how to address it with your partner. Maybe you're just learning how to be better communicators, or maybe the other partner completely is shutting it out, and even if you bring these things up, they don't really care, or that's all those things. It's not going to end well when it comes to that point. And honestly, we said last week, you can only put in as much work as you can put in if the other partner is also into it. Effort goes both ways. It can't just be you toiling away in this relationship because you want to make it last. These things are not easy, but they certainly can become easier over time. And listen, you can talk until the cows come home, but if these things are not landing in your relationship, then I don't know what to tell you. I think sometimes it can be time to wrap it up. It can certainly be time to wrap it up, but also put in the effort before you throw the towel in. Look at that first before you do that, because I think so many people are used to that high of that honeymoon stage. You go in a relationship, that honeymoon is sweet, it's popping, and then when real life sets in, things start to fall apart. So look at that and be like, how can we maybe not bring the honeymoon stage back, but certainly how can we maintain a level of respect for each other, a level of love, a level of excitement, and all these things that we're learning tonight, and even over previous shows, I hope can go a long way into teaching us how to do those things. So after the break, we'll be looking at how can couples practically put all this data and research into practice. Of course, I have some notes, right? But do call in, message us, and let us know what you think can be done. So here is the news at 6:30. Welcome back to Jambo Radio Scotland. It's me, your host Holly, on Love on the Stereo with Jambo Radio. So on tonight's show, we are talking about post-swipe clarity. This is the moment where you've fallen in love and everything is going sweet, but it's starting to go downhill. Life is starting to set in. You're back to work, you're back to reality, and now the relationship, you're not getting that many good morning sweetheart texts as you were in the beginning. It's starting to feel like he's not chasing me as much, those moments. So but we're really looking at what it takes to keep the love alive past that stage of sweetness, and we're looking to go the distance. So we've earlier on the show we've talked about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which is a concept brought on by the Gottman Institute, and they are like these expert relationship gurus. So I would recommend looking into that, and it's basically these four things to look out for when you're in a relationship, whether long term or not, and it's a way to make sure the eclipse doesn't happen to you guys. And if you see these things coming up, look out for them, address them in yourself, because sometimes maybe you're the toxic one. Let's be honest, it's not always that your partner is the problem, it could be you sometimes. So it's good to be aware of that and check that out. So welcome back, and right now we're going to look at how couples can put all those things we're talking about into practice to kind of watch out and guard their relationship. So one of the things in terms of conflict, or how to be better fighters or better arguers, is to learn how to stay calm and respectful. that seems really obvious, but seriously, it needs to be said. And this looks like respecting each other's opinions and avoiding belittling or dismissive language. I think like in African cultures, we'll do that thing where you kiss your teeth a lot, you roll your eyes, or you do these little expressions. Even if you're fighting over the phone, it doesn't really matter. It can start to be a little bit of disrespect. It starts to bubble up. So we need to stay RESPECTUF. Whoa, I can spell, guys, I promise. It's RESPECTFUL. I hope that is, guys. I could be dyslexic. I am. Let's move on. But listen, take breaks if you need to cool off, and revisit that chat when you have a cooler head. I think there's a saying of don't go to bed when you're angry. Listen, if you need to, do it, because I think heat of the moment, you could end up saying some really nasty stuff to the person you love, and you don't mean it. You're just focused on winning that argument, that you can just really find the devil can speak on your behalf in that moment, and then you'll come to and you'll be like, whoa, I can't believe I said that. And it's hard to take back stuff like that, so if you do need to take a break, if you do need to go to bed angry, just do it, but communicate and say that, look, let's put a pin in this, we'll continue tomorrow when we've had a coffee. Obviously not, but I'm saying that whole thing of don't go to bed angry, forget about it. If it needs to be done, it needs to be done, because it can help you avoid taking those low blows and hitting below the belt. It can help you stick to the issue at hand if you come at it with a clearer head. And listen, we need to learn how to leave that past beef behind. In staying calm and respectful, when you're looking to fight well, I think it's important to remember that you guys are fighting the thing in front of you. You guys are a team. And if you now start to bring things that are behind you, you start digging. And then last week you also did that. And then 3 months ago you did that. And then also that's why your mom is like that. And then that's why your dad did that. Whoa, like absolutely unnecessary. And it can build this whole argument that was never there before. So let's avoid taking the beef from the freezer and bringing it out. And let's not make it personal. Again, you guys are a team. If you see the arguments as something that versus you guys against that thing, it will be a lot bigger. Talking about what's bugging you and not actually your partner is the worst thing that's ever happened, because they're not the worst thing that ever happened. You've been with them for X amount of time. If that was true, you would have never been with them. So they can't be that cannot be true. So try and not pick at them and pick at their wounds that that you have, because that saying of you only hurt the ones that you love the most. Absolutely, you're the one who knows those buttons that you can press for that person. Maybe you're not aware that you're pressing those buttons. I don't know. I think often that we are, but avoid doing that if you can. And I think we definitely all can. Just trying to stay focused on the current conflict. It can be hard to train yourself to think like that when you just want to win the points, you want to win the battle, but that's when you're still not seeing yourselves as a team that's like fighting this thing. And trying to find common ground and flexibility, avoiding the whole I must be right, what was that happy life, happy wife, happy life. It's not always that, you know. Sometimes the wife is wrong. Let's be honest. And sometimes you have to humble yourself. Look for that little sweet spot where you can both win and lose. You know, I think last time talking about flexibility last week with our guest, we talked about fighting about the microwave door being open, right? And you have to think, let me be flexible here. Let me find common ground. If you've noticed that you've told your partner, look, I need the microwave door to be closed. Why are you not doing this? And every time it's by reflect and be like, look, clearly they know that I don't like this, right? And now you've walked into the kitchen and you found the door open. Just think to yourself, if they know I don't like this, right? Why have they done it? Could it be that they've genuinely forgotten? You know, and you glance over to them and they look at you with a smile. So you're obviously not in a fight. They're not trying to provoke you in any way. Close that microwave door and just, instead of being like, and again, here we go, the door's open. Just be like, hey, I just had to close the door. I know you've forgotten. I know if you'd remembered, you would have closed it because, you know, I like it like that. That's going to be a completely different conversation. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, oh, sorry, I just always forget. Like, I'm going to do better to fix that. But if you come guns blazing, like, here's the 70th time the door's open, again, now you're fighting because of a door. That really, it doesn't really matter in the long run. So find that common ground where you can give your partner the benefit of the doubt and be flexible about it as well. And choose a solution that helps you both out. I'm not saying go behind your partner and do everything that they didn't do that you asked them to do because you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. No, certainly there's boundaries that must be respected, and that it goes both ways. They'll do the same for you because you're also doing things that maybe they're not bringing up all the time, but they're helping you out in the back. So do the little dance together and you'll be able to get that flexibility and put that problem solving hat on together as a team. And as well, we need to learn how to make amends, own up. If you've messed up, fess up. Listen, in African cultures, it's really hard. I think some people to say sorry, I think they feel like they're going to fall down and die. You know, there's such a pride in like people saying sorry to each other. I think it starts from when you're younger and the elders can never be approached. They can never reproach, you know, there's no saying sorry. And then you bring that into your relationship. No, it must be said. And it's not just about saying sorry when you feel like you've done something wrong. You might feel like you've done nothing wrong, but the other person is like, you must apologize. Just do it and mean it. It's not about your pride is going to get hurt. Like, no, that person might genuinely need your apology. And don't be like, sorry if you thought that I did that to you. No, it's sorry that I hurt you. There's no if about it. If someone is asking you to apologize, I beg, just do it. And ladies, let's learn to let go of grudges. Move on once you have patched things up, literally, because this is how you stop bringing the beef out of the freezer. Because if you've now talked out, you've apologized, you've put it away, but someone's kept that little nugget and they're like, yeah, I'm going to write this down. And then next time you're fighting, it's brought back again. We cannot go forward. It's not possible to go forward. You can't keep writing down all the bad things that your partner's doing and keep an account, because I can almost guarantee that you're not writing down all the good things that your partner's doing. So if you're not writing down the good things, stop writing down the bad things, and you'll be able to live in the boat happily ever after. But yeah, no, seriously though, let's let go grudges. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. Some people are very easy at like dropping something 10 minutes after. Some people need 17 working business days to drop that thing. Regardless, if you need that time, take it, but just don't bring it back up again. And the only way that can happen is if you communicate it clearly and finish everything that's on your chest. Don't just bring it out little by little by little, because then it stays marinating somehow. So in order to stop holding grudges, we need to communicate as openly as possible, get things off our chest, and give your partner space to do that as well. Don't just be jumping in ready to defend your corner when someone is trying to be open about how they feel about a certain situation. And that's really the only way that you can learn to grow together and, you know, learn and laugh about something afterwards. And you learn how to be better at fixing each other. If you learn how your partner talks, how your partner expresses themselves, then you can figure out a way to learn their language, because everyone is different. As much as we can all be watching the same film, we can take completely different things from it. It's the same thing as when we're fighting with each other. You could be saying one thing and your partner's receiving something completely different. So if you don't learn how your partner fights or receives apologies, you're going to be hitting that same wall every single time for a very, very long time. And I just want to encourage us to not be afraid to ask for backup. If you're stuck in a rut, like, don't be afraid to call in the professionals to your relationship, especially if you feel like, I want this to go the distance, and you feel like I've done the work, I've learned how to communicate, or maybe both of you have done the work, and you just feel like, wow, like we've really put in a lot of effort, but this is not working, but I still love you and I still want this to work out. Remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. But I also acknowledge that in our African cultures, somebody's a witch before you'll be calling on witchcraft before you're calling on a therapist. And I want to dispel that, because mental health is really important in every culture. I would say especially ours, but every single culture, it's important. I want you to treat your mental health like your physical health. If you had a leg that was broken and it's now starting to bleed a little bit, it's starting to seep a little bit, you're going to go to the hospital. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, excuse me, can you look at this? And the same way, if your mental health is going somewhere, go to not the hospital, but maybe the hospital, like, go and ask for help. And then the same in your relationship. If you feel like you've done all the home remedies that you can do for your relationship and it's not working out, reach out for expert help. You can certainly do that. There's no shame in that. And it's not about admitting, oh yeah, like we have a problem, we're now going to find therapists. No, sometimes maybe you are completely happy and you're like, listen, let's explore therapy when we are still happy, so we can be prepared if things go wrong. That's also a great way to approach these things. So again, if you want to join the conversation, please call in direct to the studio at 014 530-2787. I'd love to hear from you about this topic. I'd love to understand how different couples go about fighting with each other, because when you think about couples fighting, it can sometimes be a negative thing, but I think that it's a good thing to fight. It's a healthy thing to fight, because you learn more about each other in those moments, and it can take you further if you learn how to fight and stop putting things in the corner, stop leaving things to fester. You leave things to time. Time heals all wounds. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. You just haven't opened that box up, because even if 20 years pass, you open that box, you might still cry. So let's stop pretending that not talking about things helps anyone, and let's fight properly as couples. So listen, the whole point of talking about all this is to build trust and unshakable foundations, right? So, and this can only be done through openness and consistent actions, because it's not just about talking and talking and talking and talking. You have to act on what you're doing, because your partner can get fed up if you keep saying, oh yeah, listen, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. Do it then. Come ahead and do it. Let's not just talk, let's walk the talk. Be consistent for your partner. Show them that you are changing. Even if it's a little thing, it can go a long way to be like, look, I didn't grow up the same way as you, but I'm learning, and vice versa. I didn't do that before. But even sing your own praises. If you feel like your partner isn't giving you those props, and they should be, then you can be like, hey, I feel like I've been really doing things. Have you noticed? And maybe that, life is busy. Maybe they hadn't noticed, but now they can be like, you know what, you have really improved. Thanks for taking that on. And it just goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago, which is like appreciating your partner and the small things that they do. And it really goes a long way. And I also want to talk about respecting personal space, guys. We need to learn how to respect privacy and boundaries. Again, in our culture, that can be a hard thing, where perhaps you have children and you feel like your children are just an extension of yourself. Now you're entering your partner's life and you feel like they're just an extension of you. No, you're still two separate people, and you have to be respectful. I want to know, if you can text me, do you check your partner's phone? What are you looking for when you're checking your partner's phone? When you're going through their apps, like, what is it you're after? Because I saw a video of this girl, and she was just like, if you're not ready to leave him, don't check his phone. And I thought that was really, really funny, because if the trust has broken down to that point where you're just like, I have a gut instinct something's going wrong, like, talk it out. Do you know, not talk out, because sometimes it's hard to approach the person that you're suspicious of, because by the time you say, listen, I want to talk about X, they could go to work and clear the whole phone, and now it's finished. Now there's no evidence. I'm hoping that we're talking about when you're in a healthy relationship and you feel like now you're becoming suspicious of your partner. Could it be you? Could you be coming from a place where your previous partner made you suspicious, and now you're bringing get into this place? You could share that and tell your partner, look, previously I was jumping in cabs, I was doing the Inspector Gadget, but I don't want to do that with you, so I want you to be more open with your phone with me. And that could be the difference between you stressing, waiting for them to fall asleep, picking up their finger to enter their phone, really doing crazy things, and just having a healthy relationship where you're sharing passwords or whatnot. And it's not about you have to share your phones, you have to share your privacy. No, it's about how open are you willing to be with your partner. And if you're not willing to be that open, what's going on there as well? We need let's talk about it. Let's explore. We need to learn how to be straight up and stop, what's that meme, going behind the corners. We need to stop doing the corners. Because if this is a thing that you want to go 10, 20, 30, 50 years, there's only so many corners inside a house that you can hide behind. There's going to be a time that everything needs to come out in the open, and better that it's out sooner rather than later. And then you can have a sweeter ride through life. So tell it like it is. Let's learn to talk, to tell it when it is rough, and tell it when it is happy, because sometimes it's easy to pick on your partner when things are going wrong, but are you telling your partner when things are going right? Are you just like, well, this is what I deserve at the end of the day? And maybe it is what you deserve at the end of the day, but tell your partner that they're doing a good job. That's also just as important as telling them that you need X and Y and Z from them. Boundaries are important, but I'll call them happy boundaries. Those are also good things, because then your partner can learn from you and be like, he likes it when I do this. Let me repeat. Or maybe they've done something to mess it up. Now they're like, yeah, when I did that thing, they liked it. Let me do that thing again. So it's important to highlight when someone has done something good, just as much as when someone has done something bad. Don't sugarcoat the beating. Don't, if something has gone terribly wrong, don't dance around it. Don't, this, and I think there's this thing in African women that you're taught to just kind of be really timid and let everything lie low, but then it just means that your partner will never really understand you on an equal level to be able to give you that respect that you deserve if you're always sugarcoating everything they're doing, and they'll never really understand the gravity of how much they hurt you if you always like pretend everything is fine, except that small thing. Let's it's 2024. We can, if this is your partner for life, you should be able to speak to them. And if you can't, reevaluate who you're dealing with, and let your guard down. It's not easy for a lot of us. It's not easy if you've not. Again, it goes back, a lot of things go back to your childhood, and if you've not grown up in a certain way, you're going to have to teach yourself as much as you're looking to teach your partner. It's great if you're both looking to teach each other or learn together and grow together at the same time, but if not, you're going to have to teach yourself how to let your guard down and show your softer side. I think we were talking about this with a few of my friends, and there's this independent nature, and I think with black women especially, you're always considered a strong, independent black woman. That's your stereotype, not me. I'm a soft flower petal, baby, and I like this soft life era that's coming in. I think there's a lot to be said about that, but I think that for so long black women have been told that you are strong, you must endure, suffering. Sometimes you see women holding on to suffering as if it's a medal. Sorry, no, it's not a medal. Learn to be soft. Show your partner your softer side. Learn to let your guard down, even with your friends. It's not going to be the end of the world if you confess that you like to hold hands. We might laugh, yeah, but we won't laugh. It's in jest. But with your partner, you should be able to show your whole self, not just be strong every day. You're not a mule, okay? You're not an oxen in the field. You're a beautiful lady. And even for men, let's learn to show our softer side. I would even encourage men to show their softer side even more, because as much as society has told black women that you are strong and you're independent, I think even more for men, you have to be this big man all the time. And great, be a big man, but what does that mean exactly? Does it mean, listen, there's a lot to be said about here, but there's strength that can look in a different way. I'll have a guest on. I'll have some male guests coming up, and I want to explore what does male strength look like when you're trying to be in love and showing your softer side. Let's discuss that then. But certainly sharing your feelings, sharing your worries, all these things, as men, you're not really taught to do that. And I think maybe as women as well, you haven't encountered a man who's willing to share that yet. So if someone does share that, you'd be like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But again, that's up to you to let your guard down and give that person space to open up as well, because it can only mean better things. And I acknowledge our cultures are not big advocates of either of those things, but we need to learn to separate the line between what is culture and what is a toxic tradition, because sometimes you're just carrying on things, calling them culture, but really it was because your great granddad was just a terrible man, and it's got nothing to do with your culture. It's just that something has happened a certain way and you've just carried it on. And that's why it's important to ask questions and question things in your family, question things in your relationship, because you could be carrying things from your past relationships into this new thing, and you just think that's how things work, but it could be completely different. Every situation, every relationship is going to look different. So I want to encourage us to be mindful of what we bring in the past, calling culture and calling traditions. Let's review both of those things when we are coming together, because again, you could both be from the same culture, same tradition, whatever, but you're coming from different families, and you're going to have to revisit what does the culture and tradition in your home look like. It's so important to question those things, even if you feel like you've got similar backgrounds. But yeah, so we've got 5 minutes left of the show, and I just want to wrap up this series by saying thanks for joining us. It's been a 2-part series. It's been intense. There's a lot to discuss, and I think that we can always go deeper into these things. You can only talk so much about trust, but it can be a series in its own right. But I want to encourage everyone to be like, divorce rates are like 50% now. Things are not looking good. People in the streets, in the single streets, they're saying it's rough out here. People in relationships are saying it's rough out here. But I think it comes down to effort in both sides. If one person's willing to put in effort and the other person isn't, it's not going to go well. So make that commitment to build trust brick by brick, to make your relationship look different to the world. It doesn't have to look like what the film looks like, what that book looks like, or what your mom and dad look like. It can look like what your home looks like. And I think it's only going to happen that way if you guys learn to communicate openly and be consistent with each other, and practice forgiveness, set boundaries, all these things that can seem hard on the outset. Once these things are established, once you've finished posting, once you've finished post swiping, when the love is sweet, and now it's like, oh, the love is not sweet, it's just normal. No, love is sweet, guys. Davido told us when love is sweet. Yes, but when trust enters, love is sweet. When communication enters, love is sweet. A lot of things make love sweet, and it's up to you to bring those things out in each other. And again, lads, ladies, let's seek help when we need it. Let's start going to therapy. Please don't beat me, right? But a lot of relationships, especially long-term relationships, it's good if you check in. Maybe every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever it is, you can learn to pick up these terrible habits that would chip away at your love. And even though you guys have made a commitment, there's some people who are like, yeah, for lifers, you're never going to get divorced. You're just trapping yourself in this thing forever just because you got married. It's not by force. It can be it can be great when you're together. And before I wrap up tonight, I just want to share one last thing that I think is really important for long-term relationships lasting, and I think that's setting goals together. I think one of the shared goals that are important in couples working together is finances. You guys must discuss finances. I think, some of our cultures are like separate finances by force. Some people are 50-50 warriors, but if you guys' financial goals aren't aligned, it's going to be game over. Because imagine that one of you is now retiring at 49, but the other one has to work till 60. How will that marriage last longer? There's going to be resentment when one person wants to travel the world, but the other one is now 56k into debt. You guys need to sit down and be okay. It depends how long really relationship you are, of course, that you must discuss this. But I'm talking about those couples that are looking to be in love for a very long time. These things are important to be discussed because we know, we've heard the song "Love Don't Cost a Thing," but we also know that same love is not gonna pay the rent. So discussing love or discussing money, setting certain goals that make sense together. I mean, we've previously discussed the HR meetings about relationships. This would be a great thing to discuss in those HR meetings. But again, it can be very casual, very whatever, and it can mean the world of difference. Setting goals about personal development, career, where are we going, how are we going there, setting goals around your travel and your adventure. Where do you want to go in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go in the next 6 years? Whatever it is, sitting down to set goals together means that you can see yourselves developing over the coming years, and it can help you keep the vision together. I think our guest last week was talking about how to get to the next level, get to the next year, get through the next patch of long distances to set a goal, and it applies here as well. So tonight we're just going to wrap up and say thank you for listening to this post-swipe clarity series. I'd encourage us all to be more in love with ourselves, of course, but with each other as well. So thanks again for listening. My name is Holly. I'm from Swipe Right HQ, and we are Scotland's premier dating agency. Reach out if you feel like there's love in the air but you don't know what to do. We can help you with that. So have a lovely weekend, and I'll be back with you next Friday.